Welcome back as we continue exploring the four dominant personality types. This series has already unpacked the introverted blue builder, green negotiator, and extroverted red director. All videos are available on our YouTube page. Now it's the turn for the final personality type, the extroverted yellow explorer. This series breaks down each of the four dominant behavioral styles and outlines the hormones in the brain driving the traits that make up each personality profile. Using this knowledge, you can not only increase tolerance and understanding of others, but also learn more about who you are, which is fundamental in forming more compatible, long-lasting relationships in your life. Remember, we are profiling each type as if we're describing an individual on the extreme end of the scale, so a pure red, yellow, blue, or green type. However, it's important to know that no one is 100% one type, and we are all a limitless mix of chemicals, genes, and experiences. This is what makes us unique. With that said, you'll be able to identify which personality style or combination of styles is most dominant in your makeup. And before we dive in, the colour framework I'm using to categorise the four dominant behavioural types comes from Thomas Erickson's work that can be explored in his book Surrounded by Idiots. Further to this, the character profiling and psychological studies surrounding the brain hormones associated with each type comes from Helen Fisher's work in her book Why Him, Why Her. Both are highly recommended and provide an excellent foundation if you're interested in behavioural or personality type psychology and relationship biology. So with that said, let's get into the pure extroverted yellow explorer. As a pure-blooded yellow, you will find yourself on the extroverted side of the spectrum as detailed here in my graphic. The type of person we are discussing here is creative, energetic, optimistic, social, spontaneous, inspiring, encouraging, enthusiastic, persuasive, flexible, easygoing, and charming. Do you recognize any of these traits? Yellows, also referred to as explorers, will always try something at least once. Why? Because they are sensation seekers. If presented with two paths, they will take the least explored, as this is more mysterious, adventurous, and exciting to a yellow. They seek the thrills of both mental and physical adventure. They also enjoy being out of control. This can lead to things like wild sex, gambling, alcohol, and drugs. Highly inventive, they will balance on the edge of bankruptcy in pursuit of what they believe to be the next big thing. Yellow types can gravitate to counterculture social activities, stay at home and read, invest in collectibles, or take advantage of every social event in town. They have no definitive interests other than seek an adventure of the mind and senses. A yellow's interests are broad. If it's new to a yellow, it shall be explored no matter how dangerous or calm the activity. They live by the motto, make everything an adventure or nothing at all. Yellows are extremely curious by nature, unusually creative, restless, energetic, spontaneous, and impulsive people. Their traits are often relatable to each other. These types are willing to risk everything to pursue their many interests, and if not absorbed in something that intrigues them, they get bored fast. They are highly adaptable and able to play many roles in social situations, liberal in their political views, flexible in their personal life, and extremely generous with time, money, and their many ideas. These individuals crave novelty, the search for new experiences, a trait psychologists call novelty seeking or sensation seeking. Although these types may not necessarily enjoy all risks, they will take it as a trade-off to experience new, intense and exhilarating adventures. Psychological studies find yellows to overwhelmingly agree with the statement, "I find unpredictable situations exhilarating." This sensation-seeking trait is largely inherited. A gene called DRD4 controls the majority of the dopamine activity in the brain region used for thinking, feeling, and motivation. Specific versions of this gene are associated with different types of novelty-seeking. No matter the profile, old or young, male or female, rich or poor, people who inherit this gene in the dopamine system have a big appetite for variety. Dopamine works together with other chemicals closely related to norepinephrine and, to a lesser extent, testosterone and serotonin. So let's go deeper to understand how dopamine impacts or drives a yellow's behaviours. Yellows always want to be where the action is, so they are more susceptible to struggle with boredom. In fact, they can't tolerate it at all. Psychologists refer to this as boredom susceptibility. Repetitive experiences, routine jobs, tedious companions all frustrate them. They're fine with interruptions as these diversions energize them. They avoid monotony at all costs. As a result, explorers can achieve many things and have great bodies of work to show for it. This energy is driven by dopamine, which they have in abundance. Personality type studies show yellows to be of the opinion that they have more energy than everyone else. Greatly elevated dopamine activity in conjunction with other brain chemistry can also produce hypermania or full-blown mania. This enables yellows to intensely fantasize and trigger their impulses. Yellows are impulsive individuals. They go by the motto, "He who hesitates has lost." While blues keep themselves in line to carry out their duties, reds rely on logic and reason, greens demonstrate restraint for ethical reasons, but for yellows, waiting is a slow death. Their cravings overwhelm them and they leap for what they want on the spur of the moment. This disinhibition is directly linked to dopamine activity. No matter your sex, if you inherit the yellow's disinhibition, you are far more likely than other types to enjoy smoking, drinking, risky sex, gambling, or other types of spontaneous, exhilarating behavior. Daring feats, spontaneous replies, last-minute plans, or moments of intellectual discovery, explorers express this spontaneity in many different ways. Risk-taking and spontaneity has probably played a significant role in many defining moments in human history, for better or worse. Whether it be things like poetry, music, literature, sculpture, speech-making, theatre, cooking, mechanical, industrial arts, the art of the business deal, yellows create naturally. Known as the creative drive, studies have found when solving puzzles, some do this systematically, trying different possible combinations, while others seem to find the answer suddenly. If you find the answer with sudden insight rather than a systematic approach, psychologists state that you tend to lean more creative. Interestingly, those who solve puzzles in this way are found to have different patterns of brain activity than those who use a methodical approach. Creatives are also great innovators. Verbal and non-linguistic creativity and the generation of ideas are all linked to specific dopamine pathways, particularly activity of the DRD2 gene. It's well understood that drugs that boost dopamine are used to increase creativity. Another hallmark of the yellow is curiosity, again triggered by dopamine. This leads them to having many interests. Some collect, learn, and can recite information with encyclopedic-like knowledge. Others travel the world to explore. Some remain in education for many years to continue building knowledge. Personality-type studies suggest the higher education you have, the more likely you are to score highly on the yellow personality-type scale. Their impulsive nature and desire to feed their curiosity no matter the risk or difficulty all stems from dopamine activity. Yellows pursue that curiosity and experience it at any cost. Creativity is also connected with another trait of the yellow, focused attention. Psychologists measure this by the strength and persistence of your orienting reflex. This reflex comes in three varieties: initial focused attention, divided attention, and sustained attention. Yellows are poor at sustaining unless they are especially interested, but when sensation seekers are exposed to new stimulus, they exhibit a strong initial orienting reflex, focusing attention rapidly. It's no surprise that dopamine helps you remember and prioritize data as well as focus intensely. As a result, yellows that are challenged or put under extreme stress can exhibit remarkable concentration. They also excel at dividing their attention, for example reading, watching TV and having the radio on at the same time. For many this would be chaos, but for yellows they can operate like this comfortably. Specific genes in the dopamine system, DRD2 and DRD3, are responsible for this ability at focusing short term. People take Ritalin to help study, which activates dopamine in the brain, allowing one to concentrate more intensely, at least briefly. Dopamine also promotes motivation and goal-oriented behaviors. It provides incentive. Reduced dopamine in certain brain regions reduces motivation and contributes to a lack of desire. In the right proportions, however, dopamine is linked with enthusiasm, energy, assertiveness, focus, and the drive to achieve. As a result, most yellows want to make their mark, think big in theatre, sports, writing plays, novels, or poetry, or excel in the political arena or world of business. Strangely, this brain chemistry of motivation also has a related trait found in yellows: procrastination. Many yellows are so dulled in on their many interests, they fail to focus on important details or deadlines, often until the very last minute. But there is also method to this madness. Some are able to produce their best work when under extreme pressure. As the heart pounds, pumping blood, the feelings of panic, danger, and excitement actually release more dopamine, triggering more energy, focus, and ideas to freestyle their way through challenging situations. This dopamine activity provides them an edge to seemingly always come good and pull the win out the bag. Mental flexibility and natural ability to adapt makes yellows proficient at surviving. This mental flexibility and adaptability means yellows are often permissive in their views politically, religiously, and sexually. More likely atheists or agnostic, they are the least judgmental of the four personality types. They can blend in easily, adopting different personas to appear just like those around them. They find it easier to take criticism and lean towards a live and let live approach to life. They do what works in most situations. They remain cool in crisis and act freely, rapidly, and tactically. Many even enjoy an emergency when it requires them to work against the clock. Again, catastrophe releases the dopamine that provides energy, focus, and creativity to solve big problems. Dopamine is also linked to a yellow's need of autonomy. Each dopamine hit fuels a reward-seeking desire, making them extremely focused on their own agenda. They are not bound by the rules of blues, logic of the red, or ethical boundaries of the green. Instead, they trust their impulses more easily. Steam into projects that seem impossible, secure the deals that seem sure to fail, and accept the tasks that appear crazy to others. Yellows just can't be tamed. When they fail, they're able to more easily shrug it off and put it down to being unlucky on that occasion. They tend not to moan about their losses like blues, dissect blunders like reds, or worry about tomorrow's errors as do greens. Yellows, because they have superb timing, tend to take advantage of their opportunities and more often than not win. Flexibility, restlessness, energy, creativity, novelty-seeking, motivation, these traits tend to pay off and pay financially. Of the four personality types, yellows are found to have the highest incomes. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, and yellows often find a way to win big. These individuals also place great value on their friendships and can be extremely generous to them, often spur of the moment. They are impulse buyers, a trait associated with dopamine. This fuels the generosity. They would move mountains to help a friend and give the shirt off their back to even a stranger, all actions that continue triggering dopamine hits. Extreme optimism. Of the four types, yellows are the most optimistic and enthusiastic, again traits linked to dopamine. This makes them particularly able to enjoy and thrive in social or physical pleasure. Low dopamine causes an inability in these aspects. Sensation seekers find pleasure in highly arousing experiences. Those who are on the lower end of the sensation seeking scale take pleasure from quieter or more familiar activities with familiar people, but ecstatic pleasure seems to have much stronger links to dopamine. This is what drives cocaine addicts to their drug, which increases both dopamine and norepinephrine. Yellows are driven to feed their senses and experience more dopamine hits. Yellows can't contain themselves, they always take the opportunity to enjoy their senses above everything else. Despite the long list of appealing traits that we've so far explored, for yellows, they can still turn sour. They can be irreverent and appear cynical. Their drive for independence can result in them trampling on others' traditions or rules unwittingly. Their desire for novelty and adventure can lead to philandering. They run from boredom, so as a result can become narcissistic or reclusive when forced into tedious social schedules. Their spontaneity can turn into unpredictability and unreliability. Curiosity can override their sense of responsibility. Yellows can be outrageously late, as they are easily distracted by other highly interesting activities at the blink of an eye. Poor planning, disorganized with a contempt for schedules, but the silver lining is, this disorder often leads to making interesting and exciting discoveries. Disorderliness, again, is linked to dopamine activity. Yellows are often criticized for having a lack of introspection linked to their curiosity of the world around them. They rarely indulge in self-analysis. They look out, not in. So they can appear emotionally shallow, particularly to greens who are highly introspective. They can lack the loyalty of a blue, directness of the red, and sympathy of the green. They can be aggressive in part as dopamine also releases testosterone and suppresses serotonin, creating a cocktail of hostility. They also tend to divorce more regularly than other types. They have a tendency to be opportunistic. Yellows score low on compliance, altruism, modesty, straightforwardness, trust, and tender-mindedness. They can also be devious as they maneuver to stay ahead of anyone that threatens their goals. They live very much in the here and now, travel fast, and if you can't keep up, they and you are gone. They go alone in pursuit of their sensation seeking. However, not all yellows will demonstrate these more negative outcomes. In fact, they are in many cases the most desired of all the personality types, with their infectious personalities and smiles, energetic, witty, spontaneous, optimistic, original, generous, and have many interests and ideas, making them extremely appealing partners or friends. These traits create an addictive energy like no other, that all other types can crave and become highly attracted to. Moreover, coupled with their secondary traits, as discussed, nobody is 100% one type, can add tremendously to their personalities. Yellow-greens, for example, can be highly nurturing and intuitive. Yellow-blues can be exceedingly loyal and organised, and yellow-reds extremely forthright. Maybe it's the dopamine that is energizing these secondary traits that are not typically associated with a pure yellow. Ultimately, yellows are born free, always searching. They want to think outside the box, rock the boat, make waves, dance with danger, keep an open mind, and above all, seize the day. Explorers drink life in huge quantities. So that's the pure yellow personality profile broken down. Do you identify with the traits and characteristics we've discussed today? Or maybe you notice them in someone else? Either way, it's my belief that above all, understanding personality profiles and most importantly, identifying your own behavioural type has transformative benefits in terms of how we can more effectively navigate relationships and create more long-lasting, meaningful ones in our lives. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you're finding value in this content, and if this resonated, share the entire Colour series with someone close to you, and I'll see you in the next one.